So, as you might be able to guess by this dorky little hat I'm wearing, today I'm going to talk to you about squids and my love of squids, and show you all of my squids and give you some fun facts about them. So, I did do a video that talked a little bit about squids. It was a video on how to draw a cartoon squid, and so in that I draw a squid, an octopus, and a cuttlefish, and those are the three main types of cephalopods. And I didn't bring up in that video, but Nautilus is also a fourth type of cephalopod, so there are 4 types of cephalopods. I am mostly going to focus on squids because they are my favorite. You can see in the background that little poster. Also, on the posters in my room video, I do a close-up of that poster and all of the beautiful text on it, as well as another poster that I have over there, which has a giant squid and a little poem about squids, which is very cute. And so I am going to start out by, let's see, I'll start out by talking about the differences between squids and octopods and how you can sort of tell the difference, and then I'll break some of them out so I can show you. So, squids are cephalopods of the order Teuthidae, of which there are around 300 different species, and most of them have this little flap on top called a mantle, as well as 8 of these little arms, which will sometimes have suckers on them. This little, stuffed version doesn't. And then 2 very long tentacles, which sometimes have little feet at the end of them, so you can sort of tell the difference. So that's total, they have 10 appendages. That's sort of similar to the cuttlefish, which is similar, only sideways, kind of like this. And sometimes, so the cuttlefish will also have a little mantle. They'll have a bone called the cuttle bone, which is where the name comes from. And sometimes, with both squids and cuttlefish, all of the arms will be the same length. Let me see, how many arms? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Aha! So this person did it wrong. Well, whether it's a squid or a cuttlefish, regardless, it only has 8 arms when they should have 10. But there are times when squids and cuttlefish have all 10 arms that are the same length, instead of like this, where one is far longer than all the others. The 2 tentacles are far longer than the arms. But they did remember to get the suckers on there, which is good. And another thing that you cannot see in this is that cuttlefish usually have W-shaped pupils, which is a bit strange. I didn't know until I looked that up a couple days ago. But yeah, and they're much smaller, like I said, and usually sideways. I think sometimes they're up and down like that, but squids are generally up and down and floating around, and cuttlefish you usually see going sideways like that. And then there is the octopus, which we all know and love. Like this little guy. He has the 8 tentacles sort of all stretched out like this. He crawls around on the ocean floor. He doesn't have a little mantle like the squid and the cuttlefish did. And the only bones that an octopus will have is his beak, which is usually like in the middle here. So the octopods are the ones that are known for being the most flexible. they can fit through any hole that is larger than the size of their beak. So this little guy would be a hole about that big. He'd be able to squeeze through it. But yeah, that's really the biggest bone that they have. And unfortunately, I don't have an example of a nautilus, but they have shells which are kind of shaped like that, and they have a whole bunch of little tiny thin arms sticking out. They kind of tend to be forgotten about because they're mostly known, not the current nautilus that exists. There are 6 different species remaining, but they thrived in prehistoric times. So nautilus fossils are, in many cases, more known than the actual living nautilus. I went to a cephalopod exhibit at a nearby aquarium recently, and I didn't even realize that they would have nautiluses there. They're sort of the forgotten cephalopods, but yeah, they have thin little arms, and they have a lot more because the arms are so thin, where females have 50 and males can have up to 90. So lots of little arms. And yeah, to know more about sort of what they look like, I have my How to Draw a Cartoon Squid video where I also sort of show you the difference between, in the same style, how you would draw a cuttlefish or an octopus. So, yeah, and I can show you some of my little, this little guy, who I only have the one of, but I want to have enough for all of my fingers, because then I will have tentacles. That was a really bad pun, but I like bad puns. I don't know. Maybe I can, if I get 10, I can like, oh my god, more bad puns. If I would have 8, I could be octoplotting. There's that guy. There's this little guy who, I don't know if he will make a startling noise, but I'm going to squeeze him and his eyes are going to pop out. So I will warn you. I guess since the eyes are weighted, it looks very strange because every time I try and show it to you, the colored part tries to go up. So it really only works if you have it on its side like this, because then you can actually see the eye like this. But there you go. And that was given to me, those were both given to me as gifts. This little guy was crocheted for me by a friend. And I have another one that was made for me by a friend, which is this little sock squid, which was actually part of a kit. Like, they had one of those sock monkey kits. My friend found this sock squid kit, and for those of you who have seen my sock market video, you have seen my collection of socks. So she saw this in a local sock and shoe store and thought, socks and squids, this is perfect. Those are, because those are like two of my, sort of my things, I guess. Let's see. Another one, which is this little squid guy, which another friend of mine got from an anime convention. This one with 2 long tentacles, and actually accurate. 8 little short ones. Another one, which was purchased for me, again at an anime convention. This one's kind of hard because the tentacles all stick up, so it doesn't quite sit flat. It always topples over. So I always have to have this one supported by all of the others, but there you go. And this little guy, who was a keychain, who, I didn't want to lose it, so I just kind of keep it on my shelf with all of the other cephalopods. And, they have a button that you can press, and he squeaks and makes a very loud noise. So I'm going to press that now, just to try and not startle you guys. But, well, I didn't realize, but there's also light. So, very cute. I might put this on one of my purses, actually, because that might work better than putting it on a backpack. And there's this guy who sits on my bed and is very fluffy and adorable. I love his little kissy mouth. It's like an octopus making a duck face. So, I call this one Youngtopus. And my giant squid I call Squidmund. So, Squidmund like Sigmund Freud, and Youngtopus like Carl Jung, because I'm just that much of a dork. And I want to get a big cuddly cuttlefish, but I can't think of what I would name him. I would want to give him a similar name, but I don't know. We'll see. Something based off of a psychologist, because I'm just a dork like that. But this is the squishable squid, who you may see in the background of some of my videos. Also has these two little guys in front and all these guys all around, and oh, he's so cuddly. And then this guy, who I got as a part of a Reddit plushie exchange about, I want to say, a year or so ago. But yes, and he has a little ink jet funnel thing, which I think that's what this one is. I think it's one of the ink ones. It might just be the one they use to squirt water out of, because I know a lot of squids do that too. They'll squirt water out so they can propel themselves. But, yeah, squids, like I mentioned, they spurt out ink, and they shoot that at their enemies, like when they're scared or when they want to make a getaway. And interesting fact about the ink, scientists have discovered that it contains the chemical dopamine, which in humans is known for, it's a neurotransmitter in our brain that sets off sensations of pleasure and euphoria, happiness. It's associated with love. It's also one of the main neurotransmitters in LSD, so it's not exactly known what effect that this has on sea creatures, whether, you know, it's meant to be calming or, you know, like a drug, I guess, like LSD to sort of freak them out a little bit while the squid can get away, but very interesting development. Let's see, what else? Oh, squids have some of the largest neurons in the animal kingdom, and that is because, technically, a squid's, you would think the head is up here, and, you know, that just has a very big head, but that's not true. The head is actually here. This is the body. So this cavity up here is where all of the internal organs are. The, you know, the hearts, the breathing, the brain is in here, like in the face. And because of that, they have very long neurons that go from the middle up to the top and all the way down the tentacles, because rather than having lots and lots of little neurons like we have. They have just one long neuron going all the way up from the brain to the tip of where the mantle is. And so, I conveniently, because I'm a dork, also have a little neuron plushie, so I can sort of explain, for those of you who don't really know much about neurons, but for neurons, most of the stuff takes place in here, in the main cell body, and they have these very long tails called axons. They communicate by sending signals from the dendrites at the, I guess you'd call it the head, and at the end. So at either end there are these little dendrites that they use to send signals. Now the messages go down the body of an axon, which are the axons, which are sort of, I guess you could think of it like a telephone wire or something, but squids have some of the longest, thickest axons. If you think about the fact that most cells are not visible to the naked eye, squid neurons are, and there are some really interesting videos on YouTube of just science being done on squid axons. They are up to 1 millimeter in thickness, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you compare, like I said, something that's not normally visible to the naked eye, and this is visible to the naked eye, it's quite amazing. And actually, since, like I said, these neurons go from the mantle all the way to the brain, some of these axons are, I think I remember hearing up to 3 feet. Don't quote me on that, but like basically very long. And in fact, these neurons are what they use to train neuroscientists and neurosurgeons to sort of study neurology when they're first starting out, because, you know, it's bigger, you can see it more easily, you don't need a microscope or anything. So that is also very interesting. Another thing that's sort of cool is that you can actually keep a squid, a cuttlefish, or an octopus as a pet. They're very hard to keep as pets because you need a very large tank, they need a lot of room to swim around in, and because you need also saltwater fish are very difficult to keep. They're just very picky in general, but it is possible. There are websites. It's also very expensive, so it's not something that I guess those untrained in keeping aquarium pets would do. You know, it's no goldfish, that's for sure, but it is an option for those who can afford it. Another thing I mentioned when I mentioned that this was the body cavity hearts, that plural was not on accident, because squids actually have 3 hearts. Yeah, 3 hearts. Take that, Time Lords. One heart is dedicated to circulating blood around the head and the body, and the other 2 are dedicated to, I believe, the gills and the tentacles, which, you know, makes sense because they can sort of, you know, separate their, like I said, the body has a lot going on, and then I'm sure the tentacles are all, you know, they're separate things. And the last thing is squid reproduction, which there are lots of different ways that cephalopods reproduce. Some of them are very strange, involve, you know, things like cannibalism and just some kind of strange, gory stuff. I didn't want to go into specifics of that, but one of the, I guess, more normal methods of squid reproduction that I've heard of is, and this isn't going to sound normal comparatively for those who don't know a lot about animal reproduction in general, but, so the male has a tentacle which breaks off and swims over to the female squid, and that tentacle carries all of the sperm that he then, I guess, deposits into her. I don't really know how to explain that without, anyway, but I thought that was somewhat interesting that the tentacle will actually break off and go swim to the female wherever she is, you know, rather than, I don't know, I just imagine having like 20 different tentacles in one place would get very messy. So, anyway, that is my squid, and I guess squid, octopod, cuttlefish, tentacle collection. And as well as a bunch of interesting facts about squids. I hope you guys learned something and didn't think this video to be too strange. I don't know. Alright, that is it for today. I will see you guys next time.